On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, everyone sucks. Everything is stupid. I hate everything. Ohio State lost to Wisconsin, which is something most of you probably don't really care about. I do, and I'm sorry, but I have to do a State of the Union address, an Ohio State of the Union, if you will. Yeah, it's going to be a little self-serving, but I am very distraught, very sad, very brokenhearted, and I have some thoughts. So I'm going to talk about that. But meanwhile, at the larger scale of college basketball, for the first time in AP poll history, 4 top 5 teams lost to unranked teams in a 48-hour span. Purdue loses at Nebraska. Houston loses at Iowa State. Kansas loses at UCF. Tennessee at Mississippi State. That doesn't even include Oklahoma, who's ranked 9th in the AP poll this week, losing at TCU. All these top-ranked teams are going down. College basketball is a sport of unpredictability. It is a sport of chaos. It is a sport, dare I say, of madness when March rolls around, certainly. And yet, it continues to find new ways to surprise us. There continues to be more and more chaos. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit. But Ohio State, I'm sad. I'm very sad. I will mention I'll talk about it at the top. But in light of Ohio State, I've lost all hope on this season already, and I'll explain why. But in light of where I'm at emotionally as a basketball fan, I decided to dust off an old segment I used to do on a previous iteration of one of my college basketball shows. And I'm doing the Haters Guide to the AP Top 25 today because I'm just in a hate-and-ass mood. If my team can't be good, I'm going to explain why every team that is ranked sucks. And I won't need a lot of help because there's a lot of teams that suck, and everybody's losing. And that's kind of where we're at as a sport. But I'm bringing some hater-ass energy to the show today because, yeah, I'm officially sad. I'm officially sad about Ohio State basketball, and I don't feel like I'm overreacting. So, anyway, we're going to do the Haters Guide to the AP poll. We're going to do a little Ohio State of the Union, and we'll get the hell out of here. Let's have a fun show, I guess. I don't know. All right, Haters Guide to the AP Top 25 coming up. I had a lot of fun putting the notes together. It took me forever because I was just jotting down all sorts of notes about all these teams, and I, again, am in a very hate-and-ass mood. So Ohio State last night, and I will preface by saying I realize that this is self-serving. I do my best, and a lot of you will roll your eyes and laugh at this, but I try to do my best to not talk about Ohio State too much unless it's relevant. Again, that's probably insane to some of you, but I don't want to inject my own biases towards Ohio. I don't know. I just realized that, like, for the most part, Ohio State has not been super relevant to the national college basketball scene, and I realize that, but also, you know, this is the team I'm watching the most of and I'm the most emotionally attached to, and every so often I say to hell with it. The show is called the Mark Titus Show, so if there is a forum where I can be a little self-serving, I imagine it's probably on the show that is named just my name. So that's what I'm going to do. And here's why, because, all right, last night Ohio State loses to Wisconsin. It's a random, in some ways, January game, middle of the week, at a time when all the teams at the top of the college basketball world are losing. What's the difference? Who cares? Who cares, Mark, that Ohio State lost to a very good Wisconsin team, I should say. Wisconsin is legit. This Wisconsin team, I'm slowly talking myself into maybe winning the Big Ten, which I still think Purdue is better than them, but Purdue's already lost twice, and Purdue has problems on the road, and Wisconsin so far does not. And if Wisconsin wins the Big Ten, I will not be surprised because they are very much legit. They're not winning. Like last night, Big Cat texted me, and he's like, man, this is just classic Wisconsin basketball. We can't hit shit, and we're still just going to grind our way to a win. And it was in that one vacuum of a game, that's definitely what it was, but this Wisconsin team is not a typical Wisconsin team. They have athleticism, they have length, they have shooters all over the place, which I guess a lot of Wisconsin teams do. But this is not your granddaddy's Wisconsin basketball team. And in that regard, like, the Buckeyes losing to them should not be that big of a deal. But here's why I think it is. So last year, in case you missed it, Ohio State sucked. We sucked ass. I felt like we had a good team. We just didn't win games, which is an insane thing to say. I know, but it made it very, very frustrating because so often we would be in games, we would find a way to lose them. You beat your head against the wall because you would say out loud, I wish we would just lose by 30 instead of this, which you don't mean, but you kind of mean in the moment. That was the experience last year with the Buckeyes. And I was not okay with it, but I saw the bigger picture, which is that last year, Ohio State had a great recruiting class. We had a lot of young guys. Bryce Sensabaugh has since gone on to the NBA. Roddy Gale, Bruce Thornton. There were all these dudes that we had a great recruiting class. It was a really good recruiting class. There was a lot of freshmen. I had talked to Holtman before the season about the vision. Felix Akpara is in that recruiting class, so he's a sophomore this year. I had talked to Holtman heading into the year last year about the expectations for the team, and he said, listen, this is before they even tipped a single game. He's like, we have a lot of talent, but we're young. We're a very young team, and Justice Sewing's a senior, and Sean McNeil and Isaac Likely, they got in the transfer portal, and they had some older guys, but he said there's going to be a lot of growing pains, and we're going to be a young team, but for whatever faults we have this year, next year's the year. Next year, talking about this year we're currently in, this 2024 college basketball season, because this recruiting class is supposed to be good. So last year we ended up going 16-19. Not a great season. We had a fun little run there in the Big Ten tournament where for a half second I thought we might pull off the impossible and win 5 games in 5 days and sneak into the NCAA tournament. But yeah, it was an atrocious basketball season from Ohio State. But this year there was promise, and we're bringing these guys back, and there's, Roddy Gale was a guy who last year in the Big Ten tournament, we end the season on a high note where he's playing out of his mind. You're like, all right, you're getting this guy back. You just want to see fight out of the guy. Like as Ohio State was losing like crazy last year, you just wanted to see fight. And if they kept fighting, you trust you're going to get over the hump. Never really happened last year. Came close in the Big Ten tournament, but there was promise heading into this season. I really thought not necessarily Final Four good, not necessarily national title good, but top of the Big Ten, like ranked for most of the season. That was my expectation for this team this year. We start the season a little dicey against Oakland, not a bad Oakland team. Oakland gave a lot of power conference teams scares there early in the season. They're not terrible. Second game of the year, Texas A&M beats us at home, and Texas A&M's not a bad team. They've been banged up this year. They've had some weird results, but in the end, I think they're gonna end up being a pretty good team. That one wasn't. It was a little disappointing. Wasn't the end of the world, right? And I'm not gonna go through game by game, but there was the Penn State game. We're up by 18. We blow the lead, and that's when I started not freaking out, but just going, this is PTSD. This is what Ohio State basketball has been in the Chris Holtman era. And we fuck it up down the stretch. We don't put teams away. We're a little bit soft in terms of just having that killer instinct, stepping on throats and all that sort of thing. Fast forward the last 2 games, we go to Indiana. Indiana's not a good basketball team. Indiana, it wasn't a blowout, but Indiana kind of handled us in the second half. And I'm looking at this Wisconsin game saying, all right, this is an opportunity for Ohio State to prove that they are not. This is not. Things have changed basically. That this is a very, very good Wisconsin team, but it's on our home court at a time when teams all over the country cannot travel. Every team that's going on the road is losing games. You have a good Wisconsin team coming in. You are a good team. Ohio State is a good, like this was reflected. I think the spread, we were favored by 2.5. So Vegas, this was not exactly this was not a David Goliath situation. This was a game that I had circled as, if this is in fact a different team, if this on this 2-year, last year we stunk, this year, I'm too far in the weeds and I'll move on soon, I promise. I just have to do this for my own therapeutic reasons. We lose we have the great season in the COVID tournament year. We lose in the first round. The next year we're okay, I guess. I don't know. We beat Loyola in the first round, lose them to Villanova, whatever. And so last year was a huge kick in the dick to take a huge step back. And you're just kind of looking at the overall arc of what this Ohio State basketball program is, and you're thinking 2024 is a big opportunity to get over a hump. That was the game. The Wisconsin game was the game that I was pointing to, saying if we can, in fact, it's not even win. I don't even think it's win. It's more like don't fuck it up in the ways we always fuck it up. Then that will be a huge step forward and turning a corner. And the exact opposite thing happened. We scored like 2 points in the final 3 minutes. Wisconsin did not score for like they didn't score a field goal for like 7 minutes, and we're still in control of the game the whole way through. We ended up losing by 11 somehow in a game that we frankly should have won. And I don't know. I last night I was at the point where I've kind of I don't know if I'd say I hit rock bottom, but I just kind of had the epiphany that like this is just what this program is. And I think a lot of Ohio State fans are already there. They were there years ago. And that's what sucks is just the apathy. The apathy is completely set in. The apathy is set in with the fan base. The apathy is set in with the players. I don't know if it has with the coaching staff. I like the staff. They're all great dudes. They treat me well. I wouldn't say a bad word about any of them, but also we've reached the point where I have to say shit like that, where like when I talk about the coaching staff, I have to point out how good of people they are and how well they treat me. And I wish we could be at a point where we're down 2 with 3 minutes left. I swear to God, when I was my 4 years at Ohio State, when we were down 2 with like 3 minutes left, I knew we were winning the basketball game. And it doesn't always work that way. And the older I get, the more I have to fight against like just being one of those old dudes that's just like, we just fucking wanted it more, and that's why we won. And these young kids, they just don't fucking want it. But, dude, it's hard not to feel that way when you watch Ohio State basketball these days. So, anyway, I wanted to say all that because I might just be done with Ohio State. I'm going to watch all the games, but like that might be the last time I talk about this team on the show, which is not true. But it might be. It might be. I don't know. We're in a bad spot. We're in a really bad spot, and I just it's not that we're losing. Losing to Wisconsin is not a bad loss by any stretch of the imagination. It's that it's just happening in the exact same ways where there's just like there really is no culture of like let's go fucking win this basketball game. There's no that's what if I was hired on Ohio State staff, that's all I would do is just like motherfuck them. And like part of me has slowly talked myself into the delusion that they win every single time I sit courtside, or every time I sit close to the bench, we win. Ohio State wins. And I'm starting to wonder, TJ, is it because every time I'm by the bench, I'm just yelling, fuck them up. I'm just yelling, like Felix Akpar is like posting dudes up, and I'll just yell, fuck them up, Felix, fucking, give them the fucking, and that's the energy I'm bringing. And like, I'm at a point where I'm so delusional and crazy that I'm like slowly talking myself into maybe that is the difference. I don't know, because I can't figure out what the difference is. Like This is not a bad basketball team, and yet they lose game. They truly play like they have no idea what the score is. They have no idea how much time is left, and they're just kind of going through the motions. But also, there's an undoubtedly a ton of talent on the floor. Jamison Battle's the best shooter in the conference. Bruce Thornton is really, really. Roddy Gale's a great basketball player. I don't know what the hell's happened to him the last few weeks. The talent is there. I don't think the coaches are bad coaches, and yet there's like a cultural something missing. That there's just no like fucking fight in these guys, and it drives me up a goddamn wall. And this was a great opportunity to flip the script, to prove it's not going to be the same. And instead, we're right back in the familiar position of being 2-3 in the first 5 games in conference play, and I'm not happy about it, TJ. So there you go. There's the Ohio State of the Union.
It sounds like you need to take a trip to Columbus and do an inspirational speech or something.
I'm scheduled.
Maybe this will fire them up, but it sounds like you need to talk to their bench guys and tell them maybe share some of the thoughts or the lessons you learned while you were on campus.
You think I'm crazy. You think that I'm crazy for saying that me going to these games and sitting behind the bench or courtside or whatever makes a difference. I'll remind you, last year we were 10-3. We lose 5 in a row. I say enough's enough. I fly to Columbus. I take my championship DNA, and I said I'm bringing my championship DNA to Columbus. I'm going to inject every player. I don't know what it's going to take, but like we're putting championship DNA back in this program. We beat Iowa. I said my job is finished. I went back to LA, and I was like, I did it. I saved the program. And then we lost 9 in a row after that. We lost 14 out of 15 games, and the one game we didn't lose was when I was there.
The only viable solution I see is that you have to permanently live in with the Ohio State basketball team.
That's where I'm at. So I'm scheduled to the 27th. Apologies to Providence fans. I was going to go to the Ed Cooley game when Ed Cooley came back to Providence. I can't do that anymore. This is an emergency. I'm going to Evanston, and I'm motherfucking the Buckeye basketball team. But that's still like 5 games away, dude. So we play Michigan on Monday. Michigan's in disarray, but like we all know what's coming. I mean, we all know that they're gonna bring the football team out with the national championship trophy. We're gonna be up 7 at halftime, 7-10. They're gonna bring the football team out, show the trophy, show the whole thing, do the whole deal, and then we're gonna find a way to lose the game. And I'm gonna I don't know. I might have to make an emergency trip to Columbus if that happens and save the program again. But anyway, apologies for yeah. Anyway,
I don't think you need to apologize.
I don't know. I know Ohio State's not relevant, and in a week when all these top teams are losing, like talking about a team that most people are like, I didn't even realize you guys had. Were you guys supposed to be good this year? I didn't realize that. I get it, but it's my show, goddammit, and I'll talk about what I want to talk about. All right, moving on to college basketball larger landscape. Quickly before we do the haters guide. So all these teams are losing. Controversial opinion. I don't know if I love it. I love upsets, obviously, but it kind of feels like the deal when you see an NCAA tournament and there's a ton of upsets, and then you look up and it's like 2 double-digit seeds playing each other in the Final Four, or like you get shitty matchups later down the road. I obviously love the upsets. I just love. I need more of a setup where the teams that are losing are thought to be unbeatable or thought to be juggernauts, or have won 18 games in a row and then they just lost in a surprising turn of events. But Purdue losing at Nebraska, I mean, was anybody really stunned by that? I don't think so. Houston losing at Iowa State, I don't think that was really that stunning. Kansas losing at UCF's a little bit more surprising, but if you've been following the show, you know that I haven't been high on this Kansas team from the start. Before we even saw 1 second of Kansas basketball this year, I was like, I don't think they're the best team in the country. And yeah, so them losing on the road, not exactly a stunner. Mississippi State's not a bad team, and they can rock fight with the best of them. So them beating Tennessee, not exactly surprised. I guess what I'm saying is like the best when college basketball is at its best to me is I don't need the blue bloods. It has nothing to do with the programs or the brands. I don't need Duke and Kentucky to be awesome. I just need some teams to be awesome. I want like the top 5 to. I want the number 1 team in the country losing to mean something. I want I want it to feel like a seismic event that's like shaking up the landscape of the sport, and we're just not there as a sport. And I don't know if I think this is the new norm, and it's fun and it's cool because it is. The cool part about it is you truly do not know what's going to happen on any given night, which is great in a lot of ways. But I don't know, for like the storytelling aspect of it, which I don't know, that stuff matters to me a little more. Like that's what gets me into college basketball more, is like if Purdue looked unbeatable for most of this season and then blew it at Nebraska, and they had to win it to like win the Big Ten, or like imagine like that scenario, or that when Kentucky lost to Wisconsin in the Final Four when they were undefeated, like that's the ideal scenario. I love upsets as much as the next guy. It's just when you see a top 5 team losing every single night, it just starts to lose its luster a little bit. So the question is, how did we get here? How did this happen? I don't know. I do think parity is definitely a thing in college basketball at this point, and I think like going back to opening the show talking about Ohio State team that most people thought was irrelevant. We are like, I do think Ohio State is like not that bad of a team, and we're probably like the 50th best team in the country. Yeah. And I think that's just where the sport is that there is a lot of just a lot of similarly good teams, a lot of B+ teams just in the middle there, fighting for NCAA tournament berths. So I don't think – I think this is the new normal with NIL and transfer portal, as we know, and all that sort of thing. But the reason I think it's happening right now this week, as a reminder, going on the road in conference play is very, very difficult. In fact, it's the hardest thing to do in college basketball. And here's the list of notable teams this year to lose their first road conference game this season. The reason I'm reading this is because I think what happens, especially coming off of football, is you get conditioned to just think like if you're the best team in the country, you're going to prove you're the best team in the country night in and night out. And Purdue dominated the Maui Invitational. That was the best Maui field we've ever seen. So how the hell are they losing to Northwestern and Nebraska? And the answer is because there's a big difference between playing the Maui Invitational and playing on the road in conference play. It's the hardest thing you can do in college basketball. And I think a lot of us fans forget that. And then a week like this week rolls around and you're just stunned by all the upsets when maybe we shouldn't be as much, even though we've never seen it to this degree. But Purdue lost their first game of conference play. It wasn't even to Nebraska. Their first road conference game this year was at Northwestern. They lost in overtime. Houston just lost at Iowa State. That opened up. That was their first road conference game. Kansas lost at UCF. Tennessee at Mississippi State. UConn lost their first road conference game at Seton Hall by 15 points. Marquette lost at Providence. Duke lost to Georgia Tech. Oklahoma just lost to TCU. FAU, Final 14 from last year. Open up conference play, losing at Charlotte. Clemson lost at Miami. BYU lost at Baylor. These are all teams that have been highly ranked, highly thought of at certain points in this season. And when the first road conference game came along, they lost. That doesn't even include Arizona, who lost their second conference road game when Stanford scored 100 points on them. But that was part of the first road trip they took. They played at Cal and then at Stanford on the same road trip. So I don't know. That doesn't quite count, but it's close. You gave up 100 points to Stanford on the road when you got your first taste of the road. But with that, I think that's why I'm so high on Kentucky and Carolina right now. Kentucky goes on their first road game. They play at Florida against a good Florida team in Gainesville. Do not play particularly well, still find a way to win. It doesn't look like much when you say Kentucky beat an unranked Florida team by 2, but when you stack it up against all these other teams that are losing on the road to open conference play, that's a big deal. North Carolina is, what have they won 3 in a row now on the road in conference play? Pitt and Clemson and NC State. So yeah, that's just my gentle reminder is that like playing on the road in conference play, as it turns out, is very, very difficult unless you're Wisconsin and you're playing a soft ass Ohio State team, and then in which case you just beat our fucking ass. All right. Haters Guide to the AP Top 25. So I am pissed off, and I'm going to take it out on every team that's ranked because that's just what I'm choosing to do today. So I want to first of all say I don't want to say anything, actually. I was going to say that I can't be held to any of this. This is just I'm just bringing hater-ass energy to this, and this isn't truly how I feel, but maybe it is. I don't even know anymore. We're going to go in reverse order. We're going to start at number 25 with Texas. Texas, you barely beat Louisville. Texas Tech owns you. The only team with a pulse you've beaten is Cincinnati, and you needed a miracle to do that. And your whole team is old as shit because no pro teams want to pay any of your players. That's why you have like pretty much every fucking guy that touches the foot. I'm so mad. Hold on.
I didn't. When you said haters guide, that was way more hate than I thought you were coming out of the gate yet. That was incredible.
It gets worse. The Haters Guide to the AP Top 25 is one of my favorite things I do.
You started cooking them right away. Yeah, dude. Like, holy shit.
You barely beat Louisville. Texas Tech owns you. The only team with a pulse you've beaten is Cincinnati, and you needed a miracle for that. And your whole team is old as shit because no pro teams want any of your players. You know, if they were good, they would be in the pros. They're not. So that's why they're all like 28 years old with mortgages playing college basketball. But Max Abmas is cool. And that time he beat Florida and almost beat Arkansas in the NCAA tournament. Everybody remembers that. That was very cool when those two teams were embarrassed by Oral Roberts. Number 24, FAU. Your coach has 1.5 feet out the door and is spending more time schmoozing boosters in Bloomington than studying tape on Bryant and Charlotte and Florida Gulf Coast and all these other sorry-ass teams you keep losing to. Your defense stinks. You can't make free throws. You went from one Mickey Mouse conference to another and still aren't even the best team in your league. Also, you cheated to beat Memphis in the first round last year, and the whole Final Four run is tainted because of it. But congrats on being co-champs of the Barstool Invitational. That's definitely awesome. So we commend you for that. That's FAU. You like this?
Yeah.
This is good?
This is a good podcast.
Number 23 is Gonzaga. You only made the Elite Eight last year because Jalen Clark was hurt, and UConn handing you your asses proves it. Your best win is over an 8-8 USC team that won't even sniff the tournament. Every good team you've played this year has made you look like a JV team. Mark Few owes all of his success to Tommy Lloyd, and if you don't believe me, it's probably because you don't realize that this is shaping up to be the worst team Mark Few has ever coached, and you have 0 recruits committed to the class of 2024, which is something I didn't realize until I looked this up. Gonzaga currently has 0, at least from what I was looking. I mean, I went on 24/7. I spent 10 minutes looking. They currently, as far as I know, have 0 recruits for the 2024 class, which in the transfer portal era maybe isn't that big of a deal, but also It's not like Gonzaga's like knocking it out of the park with transfers, and I doubt they have a shit ton of money they can throw around when compared to all these other things. So, also enough is enough. Get a football team and join a real conference. You know, the charade is over. Like this is big time college sports. We're shifting into a new era. This idea of like you being like this fun little story in Eastern Washington. No, it's over. Go join. Stop flirting with the Big 12 and join them if you're so tough. Number 22, Creighton. Colorado State sucks at defense and still held you to 48 points. You also let UNLV blow you out, so by my estimation, you're probably like the 6th best team in the Mountain West. You have no bench. Your 7-footer who's supposed to be a defensive specialist and own the paint is yet again letting a guard teammate out-rebound him. Also, Eric Dixon owns you, and you went 5 for 24 from the three-point line on Doug McDermott night, which I find to be very disrespectful to a guy who was his name is Dougie McBuckets, and you couldn't fucking make a shot on his night. And this is a guy who is basically the only guy other than Kyle Korver that anybody knows played for your program, and you disrespected him like that on Doug McDermott night. Yeah, that's Creighton. This feels good, dude. This feels good. I needed this. Number 21 is Clemson. Your entire reputation this season hinges on a win at Alabama, who has lost 5 games, and whose best win is Indiana State. So just because Alabama somehow convinced everybody they're good because they shoot a bunch of threes and play up tempo, and Nate Oates is smarter than everybody. So Clemson beats Alabama, and somehow that like makes everybody think Clemson is good, I guess. But the clock has now struck midnight. You've lost 4 of 6. All 4 have not been particularly close. Your coach has been on the hot seat for a decade, and nothing has been done about it because nobody at the school is paying attention to anything happening outside of the cold of Dabo. Your second best player is a guy that Syracuse fans couldn't wait to get rid of, and Syracuse stinks, and they still couldn't wait to get rid of him. Am I wrong, Cody? Joe Girard, do you miss him? No.
Not a cold-ass white boy.
No, dude, you didn't miss. Like, Joe Girard last year, you're like, get this guy out of our face, and now he's Clemson's second best player. Also, Justin Fields killed Dabo. People forget. That's what killed Clemson football was Justin Fields. Number 20, Utah State. Great Osabor? More like great, oh so boring. That's their best. Great Osabor's their best player. I mean, my God, you can't shoot to save your lives. From the 3-point line, from the free throw line, really any line whatsoever. If you're standing behind a line when you shoot a ball, it's a brick. Your coach turned his back on his alma mater to come to Logan, and regularly responds to texts from Rico Bosco, which raises some questions about character, to say the least. Also, you've played literally 0 power conference teams, and you think you're big boys because you're 15-1. Is that what you think? You think you're big boys because you go 15-1 playing? They've literally played 0 power schools, 0. But they're 15-1, and I'm supposed to be impressed by that? No, get that out of my face. Number 19, San Diego State. You went from playing in a national championship to losing to a fucking hole in the ground. a big hole, yes, but Grand Canyon. You lost to Grand Canyon. You lost a hole in the ground. You know what the biggest moments in Grand Canyon basketball history are? Number 2 is when they became a Division I program like 5 years ago. And number 1 is when they shot 8 for 25 from the 3-point line and still beat the defending national runner-up. This is so fun. I would say that James Naismith would be rolling over in his grave watching San Diego State offense through the years, but the truth is he wouldn't, because San Diego State it's just like a roast. Yeah. It's just purely a roast. Now you see why this took so long to prepare, TJ. I would say that James Naismith would be rolling over in his grave watching the offense you played through the years, but the truth is he wouldn't, because he would be very familiar with it, since it looks exactly like the offense used to look when he invented the sport in 1891. Also, your coach is kind of a goober. Jaden Ledee rules, though, former Buckeye, and also like he's sneakily, maybe not so sneakily, he's an All-American this year right now. I don't know if I'd put him on the first team, but he's been fucking awesome. Number 18, BYU. 2 games in your Big 12 tenure, and it's already obvious you don't belong. Your entire offense is bombing threes, and you seriously think that is a sustainable strategy in college basketball. Good luck in the tournament. You surely won't have a cold night and have it all come crashing down. That's definitely not going to happen. Also, your best season in program history was derailed by literally one vagina. One vagina derailed the greatest BYU basketball season of all time. People forget 2011. Brandon Davies had sex, and the rest is history. Did you know this story, by the way? Did you guys know this story? Yeah, I did too. They have like the honor code at BYU.
Yeah.
And the second best player on the team behind Jimmer, they were like top 5 all season, and they were really, really good. And the second best player on the team behind Jimmer, I think he impregnated his girlfriend. That's how they found out.
I was gonna say, how did they find out? I guess that would be pretty obvious.
Yeah, and then he got suspended the rest of the season, and it derailed their entire season. So I mean, respect to BYU. You got to have a code, but also it is pretty wild to think that was the best team they ever had. Gone. Number 17, Colorado State. You are an offensive-minded basketball team that's not even that good at offense. You hang 100 on Division II teams and think you're special. You lost a home game at St. Mary's. You lost a home game to a St. Mary's team that stinks. In your last 7 NCAA tournament, this is a fun stat. In your last 7 NCAA tournament games, you have lost by an average of over 12 points per game, and that includes a 12-point win over Missouri in 2013. In their last 7 games, they lose by an average of 12 points a game, and that includes a 12-point win. That factors into that. You take that away, and it's even worse. They just get blown out in every NCAA tournament. Also, the Buckeyes still own you for beating your ass by 2 in the 1988 NIT semifinals that everybody remembers. So, I might be coming at you a little strong, but that's just the way it is, man. I have bragging rights because 1988 NIT semifinals, we own you, bitch. Number 16, Auburn. You run up the score on an Indiana team that already has 5 losses, a Texas A&M team that already has 6 losses, the worst Arkansas team in a decade, and you expect me to be impressed? No, sorry. You also lost to App State. You're supposed to be one of the best defensive teams in the country, and App State scored more points on you than they did on Louisiana Monroe. Also, as a reminder, your coach is full of shit swindler who cheated and or narked at every single job he's ever had. So keep that in mind as Auburn basketball continues to blow out everybody they're playing. Wisconsin at 15. Good team. You're a good basketball team. No other notes. That's your respect. Respect to Wisconsin. Can't really say anything. Can't really talk shit on Wisconsin when you beat us on our home floor. Number 14, Baylor. You seriously scheduled joke programs like Mississippi Valley State, Northwestern State, Nicholls State, Oregon State, and an NAIA school. Your coach owes all of his success to Jerome Tang and runs a finesse bitch program that can't play defense without him. This has been a season from hell for Michigan State, and you still let them absolutely humiliate you. Also, Scott Drew won a real ring. I don't really know what I mean by that, TJ, but it's just a fun thing to say to guys who have won championships before. Just say win a real ring, and it cuts deep because nobody really knows what it means. But yeah, it works. Win a real ring, Scott Drew. Number 13, Memphis. You just let UT San Antonio take you to overtime and score 101 points. Your offense consists of taking quick, dumb shots, and your defense is just letting teams rain threes on you, which is definitely a winning strategy that won't lead to your luck running out. The best team your coach has ever had lost to a Conference USA team in the first round last year. Also, people forget you formed a coup to fire Tubby Smith and hire Penny Hardaway, and 6 years later, the 2 most memorable games of the Penny era are when you almost beat Gonzaga in the tournament and when you almost beat FAU. So that's pretty awesome. Good job, Memphis. Memphis is the opposite of Ohio State, where they're not a good team, but they win. They've been playing like shit for a while, and they continue to just win. And I don't know how it's happening. UTSA is not good at all, and they took them to overtime last night. They took Memphis to overtime on Memphis' home court, and Memphis ended up winning the game. And yeah,
is that the marker of a good team or a team that's like destined to implode on itself?
It's a great question.
This is like the find ways to win argument.
Yeah, I think right now I would say Memphis is lucky, but eventually, if the calendar turns to March and they are still doing this, I'll just be like, yeah, that's just who they are. They just know how to win games late. But yeah, they beat SMU by 3. They beat Tulsa. They won at Tulsa by 3 in a close one. And Tulsa's not very good. Vanderbilt's not good. They beat them by 2 at home. They've won by 5 or fewer. What are they, 14-2? And how many of their wins are by 5 or fewer points? Like almost all of them. I'll count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of the 14 are by 5 or fewer points. That doesn't include last night, which went to overtime, and they won by 6. And it doesn't include they beat Texas A&M by 6 on Texas A&M's home court. So Yeah, I guess if you want to stretch it to 6, it is 9 out of the 14. They've won by 6 points. But, winning is better than losing, so there is that. Number 12, Duke. You have 1,000 5-star recruits and future NBA players and are still somehow a one-man team. That one man, by the way, your best player is a 7-footer who thinks he's a 3-man and wants no part of stepping into the paint. You let Tennessee punk you last year in the tournament. Everyone remembers that game. Turned into a rock fight. You let Tennessee punk you because you have a finesse bitch program run by a nice guy who has no idea how to work the refs. Also, Coach K sucked his own dick for an entire year on his farewell tour just to lose to his arch rival in his final game on the exact court bearing his name, and then a few weeks later lost to that same arch rival in the Final Four. People forget that. I need to remind everybody every so often that happened because, I don't know, a lot of people are college basketball fans, but they don't remember the time that Coach K sucked his own dick for an entire year on his farewell tour just to lose. Just read it word for word again. That is crazy. That is crazy that happened. It doesn't like every coach, like Nick Saban just retired quietly. It doesn't every time that happened, it just reflects poorly on K.
It forever.
Yeah.
Because he fucked that up.
It just looks worse and worse every time.
I'm one to believe that sports are scripted in some way or another. I was so confident that Duke was going to at least make the national championship and have it end there. To lose to their rivals in the Final Four devastated me emotionally and financially.
So good. Really?
Oh, yeah. It was the biggest bet of my life on Duke.
Oh, no.
So bad.
Oh, no.
In the stadium.
You were there?
Yeah, in the 600s. I had more money on the game than the seats that I was sitting in. And they were not cheap seats.
Oh, no. I don't blame you, man. I thought the same thing. I thought it was just destined to be.
Yeah.
That's what made it so awesome was that.
It was awesome.
I don't know.
Not in the moment.
I said this on Mostly Sports today, and I hate that I feel this way, but I don't miss K. I don't want K to come back. 'Cause the way it ended was awesome, but it does feel like the way Coach K went out was a series finale of college basketball. Now, college basketball was around for a long time before Coach K came along, and it'll be around a long time after he's gone. But he was the guy in the era of college basketball where TV exploded. Like he whether he's better than Wooden, whatever else. K was the guy when college basketball went from like an extracurricular activity that got some of the best athletes in the school would get together after their classes and practice, and then they would travel to play other colleges, and that's kind of just what it was, just like glorified high school basketball, and it turned into a semi-pro sport. Coach K was the face of all of that for that entire era, and him going out the way he did so beautifully, it really does feel like it was a series finale, and it feels like what college basketball is now is still cool. It's just like a spin-off show. It's like I watched all of Cheers, and now I'm on season 1 of Frasier or something, and it's like I still like this show. Frasier's a great show. It's just this isn't Cheers.
Characters are good, and we don't have that fill-in yet for.
Yeah, we got to figure that out. But yeah, that was me hating on Duke. Honestly, what I should have put for Duke for hating on Duke is like I actually don't really hate Duke that much, which speaks to like how far your program has fallen.
I was gonna say that's a bad thing. Not hating Duke is not a good thing.
Duke has a white dude who's the best player on their team.
And
I don't care.
Right.
And I just like I kind of like him. I like Filipowski. I think he's a good player. I love watching him play. Yeah, that's where we're at with Duke basketball. I do still think Duke's good, by the way. I think Duke, anyone that's given up on Duke, probably a little premature though. Wait, what are we doing? This is the haters guy. What am I saying? Number 11, Marquette. You just let a program that employs John Diebler hand you your asses on your home court. Your coach was hi, John. Your coach was once thought of as Brad Stevens' equal and has been to exactly 0 Sweet 16s in the 13 years since then. You've already lost as many games in the Big East as you did last year, which will work out great for you guys because last year's team only lost by 9 in the second round to a very forgettable Michigan State team. You are literally addicted to missing threes. Also, your best defender on your team is your coach. So there's Marquette. Huge win for Butler last night. That sweetened it. It was a bittersweet night. I kind of have given up on Ohio State basketball, but to flip the channel over to the Butler game and see them pull off the big win at Marquette. Marquette had won like 20 in a row, 20 Big East games in a row. And by the way, Kevin Sweeney was on the show, and I said to him, I wish I could take it back, but we were talking about the Big East and what made the Big East so fun, and I said that anybody can beat anybody on any night. We brought up Butler, and I said, yeah, Butler just lost to UConn at home, but I swear to God, this Butler team could beat. It would not surprise me if they won at Connecticut or won at Marquette. And one of those like Big East Twitter accounts was like, "Come on, Titus, Butler's not winning at Marquette. There's no world in which that would happen." I was like, "I don't expect it to happen, but it could happen." And sure enough, Butler won. Butler's a fun team. I should just become a Butler fan. I should just. I'm going through it, TJ. It's tough, man. It's tough. I would rather be like you have hope. And like this year's,
yeah. This is a weirder year because there is future hope. Usually, it's like the last like 5 years have been like we have to win right now or else we'll never win ever again in our whole lives. Now that there is like light at the end of the tunnel and the tunnel's longer than the next game, it's interesting. I don't know where I'd rather be.
I hate being in a position where I love Holtman. I do. Yeah. I think he's a great dude. I don't think he's a bad coach. There's something obviously not working. There's something just like, and it really, again, like I just keep going back to like, it just feels like a cultural thing of just like, I remember the under 4 timeouts when we're in a tie game on the road, and just Thad like almost doesn't even. How many times he like wouldn't even grab a whiteboard? He would just motherfuck everybody and just like look everybody in the eye and just basically call you a pussy and say, "Go win this fucking game, you pussy ass." But and times have changed. I don't think that's how all coaches should coach, and I think that has calmed down a lot since then. But that's just like what I remember Ohio State basketball being was like There were times we'd be down like 7 points with 2 minutes left, and I was like, we're going to win this game, and I know we're going to win this game. And this team right now, never mind this team, just like this era of Ohio State basketball, unless we're up 10 with a minute left, I'm like, I don't trust that we're going to win this game. We're down 2 last night with like a couple minutes left, and I was like, that's an insurmountable lead. Because the other team knows it's crunch time, and our guys never really know when it's crunch time and it's time to lock in, and it's enough about that. I said I was done. All right, top 10. Number 10, Illinois. Your best player is literally suing your school right now. The hopes of your season rest on the shoulders of a guy shooting 21% from the three-point line and a big man turnover machine who thinks he's Magic Johnson. The last time you made a Sweet 16, I regularly used a VCR. Also, people forget your coach treated Brandon Pajimski like a walk-on, and the second he left Champaign, he turned into a first-round pick. People do forget that Pajimski, who's having a great year for the Warriors, by the way. He was a guy that was drafted by the Warriors, and I remember when we did like a draft reaction show, I was nothing against him. I was just like, man, it's a weird pick. I don't necessarily think that he's going to really play for them much or do much for them because they're so loaded at the guard position, obviously. And, part of what made him so good at Santa Clara was having the ball in his hands. These are all the things I thought. And then, I don't know, he's been killing it for the Warriors. Number 9, Oklahoma. Your best player couldn't even win games for Siena, and now I'm supposed to believe he's going to stack W's in the Big 12? No, he's not. You are ranked 9th in the country, yet you might not even be one of the 9 best teams in your own conference. You played one of the worst non-conference schedules of any ranked team, have looked awful in the 2 road games you played, and you have 0 players on the roster that will sniff all conference teams, much less all-American teams. Also, your coach is still in love with Sister Jean and is leaving the second he gets a chance to go back to the Midwest, which I do think is happening. I think Porter Moser would probably not go back to Loyola Chicago, obviously, but he's a Midwest guy. Number 8, Arizona. You let Stanford hang 100 on you, which really should be the only bullet point I have. You're supposed to be a defensive team, and you let the Stanford Cardinal hang 100 points on you in a regulation game. You lost to a 15 seed last year and then immediately turned the keys to the program over to a guy that North Carolina does not miss one bit and wasn't good enough to get Michigan admissions to let him in, which is true. Caleb Love, people forget, tried to go to Michigan. Michigan said, you're not allowed in this school, which I think if Caleb Love was better, they would have let him in. I have to believe that they would have let him in. But also, I don't know, Michigan's been weird about transfers with basketball in the past, so who the hell knows? Also, you think you're one of the best programs in college basketball, but if your most recent Final Four banner were a person, they would have already graduated college by now. I was proud of that one. That's a good dig. I've been to Final Four since 2001. That's pretty crazy. I did the math right. What year you graduate college?
Me?
Just anybody.
2020.
20. I mean, how old were you?
18?
18?
21, sorry.
21?
21, 22?
20, 22? Yeah. 22.
So they're
22.
Final Four banners, 23. Number 7, North Carolina. I actually love this North Carolina team. I spent like 15 minutes trying to figure out how to talk shit about this Carolina team. I couldn't really do it. I couldn't, dude. I'm in love with this Carolina team, and it's funny because like some Carolina people, I think they're coming around though. I think beating NC State by 13 on the road. They've had 3. They're 4-0 in ACC play right now, and 3 of those games have been on the road. Like crazy scheduling, but they're in the driver's seat. Obviously, they're undefeated in the ACC, but they're in the driver's seat for the conference because they played 3 road games against 3 good teams. Pitt is, I think, good. I don't know. Pitt is in a weird spot because last time we talked about Pitt, like I like Pitt. They passed the eye test to me in the sense that like you see the vision, you see how good I already said all this. Carlton Carrington's awesome, and Blake Hinson I like, and they have length and athleticism, and it all checks out. But at some point, you got to start actually playing good basketball, and I don't know if Pitt's ever going to do that. But yeah, Carolina beats Florida State at home in December, but then now that conference play has really started, they open up their first 3 in 2024 on the road, Pitt, Clemson, and NC State, and won all of them by double digits. And they're winning ugly now, which was, I wouldn't say a concern, but it was just something to keep an eye on, that like the defense wasn't great at the start of the year. And yeah, they hung 100 on Tennessee and Chapel Hill, which was exciting, but I generally never really worry about the Carolina offense in general. Now this group has been different after last year, and there are some reasons to sometimes worry about it, but yeah, man, they are playing great basketball right now. I think North Carolina, I don't know if I believe this, but it feels good, and we're doing the haters guide, so I'm gonna just say I think North Carolina should get, well, I want to say that I think North Carolina should be getting first place votes, but their 2 most recent losses are to UConn and Kentucky, and that's a tough. I don't know how you're going to jump UConn and Kentucky when I also like those 2 teams a lot. So maybe not. So I'm going to say I think North Carolina should get first place votes. I don't actually mean that, but if any Carolina fan is looking for optimism or looking for something to get you through the weekend, you go ahead and take that and treat it as though I do mean it. That's one of those deals. That's like Dickie V when the bracket comes out and he has a list of like 20 teams that were snubbed, and you're like, well, Dick, who should have not made the tournament? He's like, no, I don't want to take any teams out of the tournament. I just want to add. I just feel like all these other teams should have also been in, and you're like, Dick, there's only so many spots. That's how this tournament works. That's where I'm at with the number 1 ranking. I think UConn, I think Kentucky, and I think North Carolina should all be ranked number 1. I think it should be a 3-way tie. That's how I would turn in my ballot right now. Is Carolina, Kentucky, and UConn. Which, by the way, number 6, Kentucky, same sort of thing. I mean, the only thing I would point out is that I think their 2 best players are coming off the bench, Dillingham and Shepard. But unlike Devin Booker in 2015, I think this is actually by design. When Cal brought Devin Booker off the bench in 2015 and played him like 18 minutes a game, that was more because of hubris, and Cal really thought he was about to get 10 dudes drafted in the first round of the NBA draft. I don't think that's the case this year. I think that there's more of a buy-in with Dillingham and Reed Shepard coming off the bench. I like this Kentucky team a lot. They have questions defensively, sure. They're not a perfect team, but they lost to UNC Wilmington too. I guess you could point that out. I don't know. It's starting to fall apart. The haters guide's starting to fall apart when you get 2 teams in a row that I really like, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. They're pretty hot. They won 6 in a row. Kentucky did beat Carolina. Winning at Florida was a big win. That was a big win for them. They got Texas A&M at A&M. A&M is on Saturday. This Saturday. A&M's been struggling, man. They've been banged up. They have not been fully healthy really at all this year. They're 9-6, and this is an A&M team that had aspirations of winning the SEC. They're currently 0-2 in the SEC. Just lost at home to LSU. They need this one. A&M needs this one. Every time Kentucky plays on the road in SEC, it is almost always the biggest game for that team that is hosting Kentucky, and it's going to be more the same on Saturday because that is a game that I think is going to be awesome, and A&M needs it badly. A&M is – if I was an A&M fan, I would feel this Saturday like I felt as an Ohio State fan with Wisconsin coming in, where it's like in a vacuum, there's no shame in losing this game, but if we want to turn the season around and be on the right track, this is a massive fucking game for us, and yeah, so I'm fired up to watch that. But yeah, if Kentucky can win that, dude, it's on. All right, top 5. Tennessee, your program is built on being big, bad, and physical, yet your best all-around player is 5'9". And the other face of your program is a Uruguayan dude who flops all the time, and you're supposed to be this big, bad, physical basketball team. You just lost to the same Mississippi State team that lost to Southern at home. Your program is so allergic to offense that you turn Jordan Gainey into a 28% three-point shooter. You bring him in. Gainey, by the way, was a guy that the scrimmage against Michigan State, I was like, oh shit, dude, you got Dalton Connect and Jordan Gainey in the transfer portal. Tennessee's going to be lighting it up offensively. Connect was awesome last night, but Gainey he just lost all of his offensive ability. It's just like he put on the Tennessee jersey. He can't score the basketball. Also, your coach has been a head coach for as long as I've been alive, and we've both been to the same number of Final Fours. That's a fact. You can look that up. We've been to the same number of Final Fours. Number 4, UConn. Your coach is addicted to losing to his alma mater. I'm starting to get woke to that. Bill Self at Kansas loves pulling off the Bill Self special, losing to Oklahoma State. It's something he does very regularly. He might do it this year, by the way. Keep an eye on that. Bill Self losing at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is not good. When is that game? That's coming up. That's coming up on Tuesday. Uh-oh. I'm getting excited. Oklahoma State is not good. They are 8-7. Mike Boynton, I don't know if he's on the hot seat, but he's on the I don't know if he's on the hot seat. Where if you told me he's on the hot seat, I wouldn't be surprised by that. They are 8-7. He badly needs a win. That program badly needs a big win. And Bill Self is coming into town on Tuesday. Oh my God, dude, it's happening. The Bill Self special is happening. He always loses to Oklahoma State, TJ. This is something that always happens, and I just wanted to put that on your radar and on your radar, Cody. But Dan Hurley is I'm getting woke to Dan Hurley doing the same thing, that he played at Seton Hall, and he's starting to take a lot of losses to Seton Hall, and I think it's by design. I think he's purposely throwing games because it's twofold. One, it's a way to give back to your school, but also it's a regular season loss, and if you're a program that has national title aspirations, as obviously Kansas and UConn always do, it's an opportunity to you sacrifice the regular season game so that you can then motherfuck your guys in practice and tell them you're not good enough and make sure they don't get complacent. It's manufactured adversity, and I'm woke to that Dan Hurley's doing that. Also, UConn, your leading scorer wasn't even the leading scorer for a 19-15 Rutgers team last year. That's I mean, for being honest, like,
yeah,
that's a tough spot to be in.
Yep.
Rutgers can't even score the basketball, and Cam Spencer wasn't the leading scorer on Rutgers last year, and that's the guy that's leading you guys this year. That's not a great look. Your star big man is letting a guard on his team out rebound him. He can't even walk without getting hurt. Also, you opened the season after winning a national championship. This is true. And UConn deserves more shit for this. You win a national championship, then open a season with Northern Arizona, Stonehill, and Mississippi Valley State. Get out of here. Also, fully healthy UCLA team beats you in the Sweet 16 last year. Prove me wrong. And Dan Hurley won a real ring.
Got him.
Number 3, Kansas. You just lost to UCF. You needed UConn to be banged up to beat them. You needed a miracle to beat Indiana, and you needed the refs to beat TCU. Also, you have 4 players in a game where 5 players are on the floor at all times. That seems pretty stupid for a school that brags about having the guy who invented the game and brags about having the best coach in the country right now. Why are you so stupid as to have only 4 good players in a 5-player sport? I don't know. Doesn't make much sense to me. Also, Bill Self needed a missed free throw to win a national championship in 2008, and he cheated to win in 2022. So Bill Self win a real ring. Houston at number 2. You play one road game in the Big 12 and suddenly shit your pants. Your entire roster is undersized, which will definitely serve you well now that you're playing power conference college basketball. That's definitely not going to be a problem at all. Your best win is over a 7-8 Xavier team. Your best win is a team that's under 500. You shoot 67% from the free throw line. Also, your coach is almost 70 and has won fewer power conference championships than I did in my playing career. That's also a fact. You can look that up. Kelvin Sampson has won fewer power conference championships than yours truly. Number 1, Purdue. I struggle with this one. It was hard to find. It was hard to find anything on Purdue. Purdue is a program that hating Purdue is not easy. It's very difficult to hate a team as likable as Purdue. Certainly with the rich history of success that Purdue has, it's hard to poke holes in any of their resume or their tradition or standing in college basketball. But here's what I came up with. You followed up an NCAA tournament performance where you lost to a 16 seed by then losing to the two of the worst power conference programs in college basketball. Your coach is also an IU fan who stole everything he knows from Bob Knight, and he also wanted to go to Missouri. Never forget that when Matt Painter, who is Mr. Purdue, who's going to someday have a statue built for him outside of Mackey Arena, never forget the time that he wanted to just turn his back on Purdue and go coach at Missouri because he wasn't making enough money. But he's definitely driven by his love of his university and his alma mater. That's definitely what it is. It's hard to. I mean, Purdue really is kind of hard to hate because it's just so. I mean, like you kind of can't kill them, TJ. Like the Purdue fans, you kind of just like they're at a point where it's just like, what am I gonna say? You lose to shitty teams all the time. Like they know that.
It's like, what are you gonna say about them that they haven't already said about themselves?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where we're at with Purdue. For what it's worth, Nebraska, not bad. Not a bad basketball team. Northwestern isn't either. Purdue's still making the Final Four. Purdue will make the Final Four. That is a guarantee that I made in the preseason. I'm sticking by it. I will 100% put Purdue in the Final Four no matter who they're playing along the way. They could play the Bucks and the Celtics. The bracket come out in March, and Purdue has the Milwaukee Bucks, the Boston Celtics, the Denver Nuggets, all in their bracket. I'm still picking Purdue to go to the Final Four. They will make the Final Four. But yeah, it is something. It is something that they lose these games. They go on the road and lose, but then also they go on the road to play Maryland and they beat the snot out of them. So I don't know how this happens or why this happens. But Nebraska was hitting everything, and Nebraska's not a bad basketball team, which is pretty crazy to say. But here we are, Nebraska, not bad, certified not bad. All right, I think that's good. That's what I needed. I just needed to flush it out a little bit. Just talk shit on all these teams. I think we need to do something with college basketball though. Like I do think there should be like no number 1 team for a little while. I think there needs to be they do that in wrestling, right? Like they'll just vacate in boxing too, right? That you just vacate the belt.
You can vacate the belt, yes. There would be a number 1 though.
How? Well, I thought number 1 is the
number 1
champion.
contender for the title.
Oh.
You could do an interim number 1.
Yeah. I don't know. UConn's probably going to be the new number 1, right? But I don't think UConn deserves the number 1 right now. I know they won the national title last year, but this is a new year. I don't know if they deserve it. They did beat Carolina, so that's the problem. Is like I want it to be, it's probably UConn, but they just lost by 15. Like, you lose by 15, and then they're 4 games since they lost by 15. You beat St. John's at home. You beat DePaul at home. You beat Butler on the road and Xavier on the road, which I don't know if that's enough to be like, that makes up for us losing by 15, so please give us the number 1 ranking. But then again, someone has to be number 1. Who's going to be? Is Purdue going to be number 1? I would, you know what? I would give Purdue number 1. I would, all these teams that are losing, I want Purdue to stay number 1.
There.
Yeah, just leave them there because it's just funnier to watch them. How about Matt Painter bitching
He's
about
the worst.
storming the court,
really
by the way?
Is just the most annoying guy ever.
That's such a bad, like, that if You can't do that after you lose. You can't. You have to do that. What he should have done is waited for the next game. They got Penn State at home coming up. They're going to beat Penn State by 30. In the post-game press conference after you beat Penn State by 30, then you make comments about, like, by the way, just something I want to get off my chest. I've been seeing a lot of court storming around the country in college basketball, and I just feel like that's unsafe. You know, you say it like that, but when it's like 10 minutes after you just lost,
Yeah.
and you're like, how dare them have fun? It's dangerous. And you're like, oh, did somebody on your team get hurt? No. But they could have, and that's the most important thing is what if one of my guys got hurt? Because in Mackey Arena, I think the reason I get fired up about it is because there's like a sense of superiority from Purdue fans, and I'm picking on Purdue fans because your coach is the one that started all of this. But there are certain programs around the country that are this way too. There's the sense of superiority that we would never storm the court. Now, if you've been to one game in Mackey Arena, it's pretty obvious why they won't storm the court. It's because the students would have to jump over a wall that's like 10 feet high.
Yeah.
And they would all sprain their ankles. And that's the reason you don't storm the court. There's no like Purdue fans like jerk themselves off and are like, we don't storm the court at Mackey because we're above it. You're not. You're not above. No, there's not a program in the country that's above. Same with Allen Fieldhouse is the same way. Like, his students have a hard time. They would have a hard time rushing the court. Kentucky is the same way. The way the arena is set up, the students don't have an easy access to the court. So yeah, maybe there is an element where it's like if they wanted to rush, they probably could, but like the deterrent key, I don't know. That probably does factor in a little bit that like we're Kansas, we don't storm the court. But I'm telling you, if your student section was on the court and you beat your rival, that you beat TCU on a last second shot, you win a close game at the last second, you're going to run out on the court. You are. And it's because all of these students are drunk off their ass and they don't give a shit about like, well, we're ranked here at Purdue, we don't storm the court. I get why do we do this as a sport? It is going to go away at some point. The SEC has already started it where the Mississippi State banana guy
Justice
ran out on the court, got arrested, and the SEC fines all their schools if they storm and all that sort of. It's so stupid.
I will say, if anybody's going to talk about court storming, I'm glad it's somebody with a lot of experience in people storming the court against him, like Matt Painter. He probably knows the feeling. Like, he's seen it so many times in the last 2 or 3 years that he probably he knows what he's talking about at least.
Wait, not a good point. What'd you say?
People storm the court against Purdue all the time.
So you're saying he has good points?
I'm saying at least he knows about the situation. Because
I thought you were talking about me. I thought when you said guy who knows about storming,
if anybody's going to complain about somebody storming the court, it should be somebody who constantly has the court stormed against him because he loses as number one so often.
That's true. All right, TJ, fine. But don't do it right after you lost. Like, do it. It's not going to come. It just comes across as sour grapes. That's the only. Like, even if you have good points, no one's going to hear him. We're all just going to point and laugh at you and be like, if you don't want him to storm the court, don't lose to Nebraska and Northwestern.
Well, we'll see what he says in 2 weeks when it happens again.
Yeah, Rutgers. By the way, he did lie. Like, that's the other part. Is he was like he said every single game that our sophomores and juniors, every single game that our juniors have played and on the road and we've lost, we've had a court storming. That's not true. They haven't. But he just said it because it sounds good and everyone's like, damn, that was like stolen valor kind of because he's like, that was a humble brag is what it was. He's trying to make it seem like every game Purdue loses, they storm the court, which it almost is, but it's not. That doesn't happen every game. And Matt Painter tried to sneak that in there. Like, we're one of those. We're kind of the new Duke, We're kind of, it is really frustrating that my program here at Purdue, that has not been to a Final Four since 1980, is exactly like the program that's won 5 national championships. Just try to sneak that in there real quick. All right, I think that might be. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I need to just take a deep breath and find something to bring me joy, TJ. I think that might be it. I don't really have anything else. Shout out to Evan Turner, I guess, has been starting shit on Twitter. I don't know if you've seen this. He called out the Raptors coach for having an accent. You saw the the Darko, what's his name? Coaching the Raptors, the Serbian guy. Evan tweeted like basically like, I want to take this seriously, but this guy has a crazy accent. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. Which, Evan has an interesting voice himself. Now, Evan has a I wouldn't say tragic, but Evan has like a backstory as to why his voice sounds the way it does. And I made fun of him when he first got to Ohio State, and then I became a little sensitive to it. And I try not to pick on Evan for his voice, and try to have a little empathy, a little sympathy, whichever is the right word to use in that situation. So for him to then turn around and just be like, this foreign guy talks funny. Also, I think he's kind of beefing with Gordon Hayward. I've had people tweeting at me about that. That's like, your boys are beefing. Your college teammate and your high school teammate are beefing. Are you going to step in and solve this? So I don't know what the hell's going on with Evan. But shout out to Evan for still making waves out there in the Twitter streets. Anything else? You boys want to shout anything out before we?
Good luck moving this weekend. That sounds stressful.
Yeah, I got a new house. I am closing on it tomorrow, and we are moving this weekend. And
the weather for this weekend is?
The weather for this weekend is the worst weather. I think it's a little symbolic, though. It's a little poetic that I was warned about the Chicago winters. As I told everybody I was moving here, I said that won't be a problem. I'm a Midwest guy. I can handle Chicago winters. And so far, so good, because the Chicago winter it's really not gotten any colder than like 20. I don't know. That's probably the coldest it's gotten. It's been manageable. And the day that I'm moving into my new house and, signing paperwork that ties me for 30 years to this house in this city and everything else, the temperatures are dropping by like 20 degrees, and like a dump truck of snow is being dumped on my front steps. And I have to shovel, by the way. I found that out today, that the house I'm moving into does not have any I didn't assume they would, but just like that point was driven home today. Like I didn't even ask. I was just kind of going about my business, doing like a meeting about the house. And someone just chimed in and was like, "Hey, by the way, you're going to have to shovel the snow." And I was like, I kind of figured, but like, fuck you for pointing that out on a day when I'm going to move in day one. I'm going to have to shovel 6 inches of snow. So anyway, I'm excited about it though. You boys are invited over whenever you want. And we will find out how much I mean that when you put me to the test. But I'm saying it now. No, you guys are. You're invited over anytime. And we're fired up. And yeah, I don't know. That's it. That's the show. Apologies to any people watching or listening that are sensitive little pussy ass bitches that took anything I said personally and are going to whine about me hating on your team. It's not you, it's me. I'm going through some things right now, and I'm lashing out, so I do apologize from the bottom of my heart. But also, that's college sports, baby. Bringing some hater-ass energy every so often is what we need. I'm going to go back to being excited, though, next week, because I'm going to do a big flush of the Ohio State bullshit, and we're gearing up. College football is over. College sports fans are focusing all their attention on college basketball. I do love this sport year-round. And I think now is the time to start getting excited. A lot of people don't care until March, but this is the time to start celebrating. So I'm going to flush it. We did the haters guide. It's over. Everybody enjoy the weekend. Fun weekend of college basketball coming up. We will be back on Tuesday talking about it all, and I promise I'll be in a good mood then. See you guys.